So it's November 15th, 2019, and this is episode 4 of Film Cult Podcast. And can you believe it's already halfway through November? That's kind of crazy how fast time's going. But today on the show, I'm going to do another review, a side-by-side review of two movies by the same director. Similarly to what I did with Robert Eggers' films The Lighthouse and The Witch. But this time, I'm going to shift my view to two different A24 films. And that is Hereditary and Midsommar. Wow, it was blank there. Hereditary and Midsommar. I do have an in-depth analysis for each movie, so I shouldn't be blanking at all. But these two movies, very similar to the Eggers movies, are kind of like companion pieces, and kind of from what I read from the director's point of view, and how these films, Hereditary first from 2018, Midsommar from 2019, so they're a year apart. Kind of these films have overarching themes that I saw were cohesive, and being by the same director, it could have some of the same motives to them, even though they are very different stories to be told. And I actually ended up seeing Midsommar first during its theatrical release, which was back in July, I want to say. I saw it on my own, and then recently rewatched it this week, and then I decided that I was going to do this on the podcast. So I decided I gotta watch Hereditary as well, since that's the first picture. Technically, Midsommar was written first, but Hereditary ended up being directed first and being made into a movie. And then the following year, Midsommar. So as it was released is how I'm gonna review it. So I'm gonna talk about Hereditary first, then I'm gonna talk about Midsommar. Since both of these films are out on DVD, I can bring up side-by-side stills because there are similar imagery in both movies. So it's kind of cool to see it side-by-side. Similar things are shown, and hopefully without getting copyright. I've never really shown film stills, but we can make a side-by-side analysis of each movie. So that'll be fun. As far as the third movie that I'm going to review, I'm not sure right now. It's actually not Friday when I when I record these things. It's Wednesday. So if I do get another film in, I've been watching some good TV. With Disney Plus just came out, and the president's on trial, and there's a lot going on, and that's just to be said in media, not even my own life. So if we could get a third film in there, but those first two films I'm going to review separately, and then kind of do a side-by-side in-depth film review of both. So that is where we are going to begin. Like I said, Hereditary is the first movie I'm going to talk about. So Hereditary, to me, was so much better on the second watch. So just jumping right into it, I would recommend this movie. It's definitely one of the best horror movies of that year, since that's so recent in 2018 that I can recollect any other horror movie that I've seen. And what's great about this movie, and what is great about Midsommar too, and I guess that connects, is that they both are around 2 hours. Midsommar being a little bit longer at 2 hours and 27 minutes. This is at 2 hours and 7 minutes. But they both give time to the characters and their relationship to one another. And I don't think it kind of deviates from any type of like Blumhouse horror movie, or like any of those hour and a half, 90-minute jump scares filled, not really cohesive plot just trying to get scares and jumps out of you, and then um, boom, that's another horror movie, and just come out with another one and another one. I think this film just stands up and kind of pays homage to. I can definitely see Rosemary's Baby in here a lot. Kind of that old school. A lot of the scares primarily in this movie have to do with like supernatural, like nightmares and stuff, and that's why I say Rosemary's Baby in particular. I know Ari Aster, the director of both of these. I don't know if I mentioned that both of these films are directed by Ari Aster, um, Hereditary and Midsommar. But it's why I say better the second time. I don't know if I was fully focused the first time I watched this movie. Watched it a little after coming back from the movies of seeing Midsommar back in July. I know it's kind of like a mixed up timeline, but and I liked it. I did not like it at the time as much as Midsommar, but after watching it again, knowing the plot, um, remembering what I have back of seeing it months ago, and then to watch it again this week, I just caught so many more little things, and like for example, um, Toni Collette's character, Annie, she goes to a grief meeting, like kind of like a anonymous group session about, well, it's not anonymous. I don't know why I said it. It's like Alcohol Anonymous, but it's not. It's for grief and losing a loved one. And if you know the plot, you can um, sort of assess the characters in a different way. I'm trying to make this as spoiler free as possible, but it probably will get to spoiler territory, so there's your warning. Um, but yeah, you can kind of assess the characters in that room differently, and you can see things um, right in an right after it sets up all these characters, and then you're given a twist 30 minutes in, and if you have seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that really was something that I wasn't expecting, and since I already knew that from watching it the first time, you can kind of let that subside. And so it was really cool to see things like pieced together in this movie. And you can figure out that Joni or Joan is Toni Collette's mother's like friend, and once you make that connection, and like I said, I'm spoiling it, but um, it's just really cool to piece the puzzle together. And then there's so many times in this movie and in Midsommar as well, which I will get to, um, that things are not told to you, but they are shown to you, and it's definitely a great use of just letting the viewer just use his brain, use his or her brain, and actually make assessment on what's going on, and they can piece together puzzles too. Like this kind of gives me feelings of Memento, the Christopher Nolan movie Memento, which I wasn't going to talk on what I had, but since I am talking about it now, I will bring up some information, but in the way that you're kind of learning with the viewer, with the character, what's going on, and you can kind of piece together things before the main character himself. Memento's from 2000. So, great Christopher Nolan movie, one of his earlier pictures. But I digress. Hereditary gives awesome visuals, awesome filming. Definitely a great study of a family, and the big motive of this is grief. And there's a scene of Toni Collette's character after she loses her daughter. That's a spoiler. Sorry. Where she's just sobbing, and it completely parallels a scene in Midsommar where the character Danny she loses her parents and her sister, and she's also sobbing. And this scene is almost directly the same from both of these movies, and that's where that correlation begins to start. I know I said I was going to save this for later, and I will talk about it, how they parallel more in depth later, but um, both of those scenes, just the devastation and the actresses sobbing and crying, it's just so powerful. And one of the scariest things about horror movie is silence, and I think both of these films do a good job of just letting the silence fill in. Uh, Along with Hereditary, this movie had just such a cool soundtrack. Really just unsettling music and creepy music that, along with the silence, once the music starts, it's just almost trance-like. It definitely works with this um, satanic cult ritual that is going on in this film, Hereditary. Um, like I said, those pieces start to come together. You see the back of Joan's car has the chalkboard, which she says is very close to communicating with her dead son, I think. I forget what family member, but you see these like little lies and these little things pick out, and on your second watch, and that kind of um, alludes to the end. And like I said, a lot of things are just shown, and you understand the information instead of it being told to you directly by like some character reading it out of a book and saying to himself, "Oh, the demon is named Paimon," or something like that. Um, to kind of piece these pieces together instead of it just being bluntly shown to, or like told to you. Like I said, that just excuse me, takes away from um, all the standard horror pictures that we see now, and all these horror movies that are just like jump scare garbage. These films are not like that, and they definitely, both of them, deserve a second watch. And I enjoyed rewatching both of these films this week. But like I said, Toni Collette, amazing job in this movie. She's definitely the powerhouse actress who's delivering um, such raw emotion and such physical acting, definitely, that she has to do in this film. And it's so funny to see Alex Wolff in this movie. Just for me, I don't know how. I'm probably dating myself now by how young I am, but seeing him in the Naked Brothers Band TV show growing up, and to see his brother as well now, Nat Wolff, in these dramatic acting roles, just kind of makes me laugh. I never would have pictured this in a million years. But he's very good. Both of the Wolff brothers are very good in their respective films. I know Alex Wolff is in that new Jumanji movie that came out. I know he was in My Friend Dahmer, which I also watched a very long time ago. That came out in 2017. Yeah, that sounds about right. Cool little quirky film. That goes kind of like a dark comedy. Definitely could be talked about. He was in an episode of Monk, and then Nat Wolff has some notable roles too. I remember he was in that Netflix adaptation of Death Note that was take it or leave it by a lot of people. The Intern, Paper Towns, second time I'm mentioning that movie. And Mission, that's a good little comedy. Tina Fey, Paul Rudd, I think. So yeah, he's had some good roles over the years as well. But back to business and talking about Hereditary. Awesome acting. A lot of I'd assume to be traumatic stuff going on for these actors to go through, but they do it very well. And there's some facial disfiguration going on with Alex Wolff in the movie, and Toni Collette's on fire at one point. She's trying to burn this demonic possessed book, and it's, I guess, attached to her. That's another very old school, like, cinematic horror thing that happened in the movie that I was like, that's so cool. She throws this book in the fire and her arm catches fire. As she's trying to put it out, she ends up putting it out, and then the fire on her arm disappears. So hopefully I haven't spoiled this movie too much, and you can definitely get a recommendation from me to watch it, because it is genuinely scary. It's not hokey jump scares, and the jump scares that are in the movie, like I said, aren't the generic type. It's more of subtlety in the view of horror, in that way that there's something in the corner of the frame, maybe, or there's a shadow over there, and it kind of works to that subtlety that makes a genuine scare so much better. And like I said, especially in this movie, Hereditary, the sound is so cool. The last half hour of this movie is just like a horror fest. That's just like magic. So that's my recommendation for Hereditary. Now we will move on to the following year, in 2019's Ari Aster film Midsommar. So, as a continuation of a lot of things, this film is just shot so beautifully, and the coloring on this film, and the cinematography. There's so many shots where you have two characters back and forth, and you can see both of them within the frame, but one of them is in your focus as the viewer, and the other one is being shown to you through a mirror, which is showing them in front of the other character, which is very hard to explain, but hopefully with these pictures being shown in front of you, it's kind of more of a clear sense of these shots just dominate the movie, and they're so cool. I'm not sure if the camera is positioned in a way so that it is not in view. Obviously, maybe in that shot to the left, you would see a camera there, so maybe it's edited out using like some sort of special effect. But these are just so cool to show a back and forth between two characters without splitting, going from one camera to the second camera, like an A and B kind of shot for dialogue. But this movie's central focus is a relationship and the breaking up of a relationship, and kind of the stages of that. And I think that's very clear from the beginning, because they set up the two characters, Danny being the female actress, as I bring up the credits here, played amazingly by Florence Pugh, and Christian, the other character, played by Jack Renner. You can see the tension and the strain in their relationship from the beginning, and this movie, clocking it at almost 2.5 hours, it's that slow character development in the beginning. As if you've seen the trailer, you know that this takes place on a Swedish, not an island, but it's a remote area. And so what I'm saying is that Ari Aster has that ability to let good use of the time that he has, and both of these films having a longer running time than most horror films. Sorry, I lost total train of thought, and just decided to go off from where I began. I did a quick pause, trying to make this as seamless as possible, but like I said, they don't go to this remote Swedish place where this ancient or very primitive culture lives, and they're celebrating this Midsummer festival that only happens every 90 years, and it takes time to set up the characters before that, in which many other of modern day horror movies definitely would not. Would probably start in that location. That's how quick these movies go, to just throw stupid scares at you, and have this another one-off horror film just be the end of it, and it makes money because people go to see it, and it can just keep cranking them out, and that's how like those Blumhouse pictures do most of the time. Not saying that they're all horrible films, but most of them are just formulaic, and um, it definitely gets repetitive. And to watch Midsommar with my friends after initially seeing it by myself, I think it was funny to see how they both uh, had the same general reaction that they were glad these movies were made because they are artful and they do have such a cinematic. Um, like I said, this movie definitely referencing like The Wicker Man, the original and the reboot, in kind of this pagan ritualistic culture that these violent things seem so terrible to us people, but to them it's just that's the culture, that's the way they've been brought up. This is supposed to be a beautiful ceremony, and you know exactly what part of the movie I'm talking about if you've seen it, and if not, just know that there's a lot of gore and violence in Midsommar, more so than Hereditary. I know there's definitely some gory imagery in both movies, but I'd say definitely more so in Midsommar. I think it steps it up as far as the violence and the horror um, of some things you're shown. Um, both films, and I definitely won't be able to show it, but maybe a blurred out. Both films show a severed head that has been either caved in and gushing blood, or yeah, I guess that's the only way to describe it. Both show a caved in, severed head. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I don't think I'd be able to show. Definitely community guidelines that would be broken. So there's a blurred out still of each, and I'm sorry for myself for having to edit that. Um, so that's another side by side shot that is exactly the same in both films. But cool use of subtle special effects, I guess, for these. There are scenes where the characters are tripping on mushrooms while they're at this midsummer ritual, and the film kind of has a psychedelic overtone. Um, the natives of this culture that they visit also use um, like sensory psychedelic drugs that you like either inhale or eat, and whatever, they have these natural sedatives and psychedelic feels to it. So the special effects mimic that by having flowers like open and close, and everything's kind of swirling around in the regular shots, frames, to show that these characters are being subjected to the psychedelics, and that works really, really well. And it's really, really cool to look at, especially with this Swedish landscape and these beautiful hills and mountains and kind of plain uh, colors and hues, and it's a very beautiful movie to look at, whether or not you like the the content. Because I know this film, and I know Hereditary is not for everyone, um, and I feel like the general audience uh, would not have as good of a time, which I feel like is something I've been saying a lot. But I don't feel like you have to be such a self-proclaimed film junkie like myself, or somebody who's, you know, really high and mighty about seeing movies to enjoy these films. Um, you could just have respect that they're good movies, and the story that they tell is really good. And definitely more so my second time watching this movie, um, I drew a parallel of this film with Jordan Peele's breakout horror film Get Out. And I'm only saying that because Get Out's from 2017. So Get Out 2017, Hereditary 2018, Midsommar 2019. So that's kind of a good line of horror films. But what I'm saying with Midsommar and Get Out is that um, their friend, God, I don't remember his name, but their friend who's from Sweden, I think his name's Pell, um, the one who brings them to this midsummer event is kind of like their lure in a way to get these foreigners as um, without giving anything away, but captives to this ritual event, um, uh, kind of to lure people to this culture because they do end up offing these characters. I think it's pretty obvious from the trailer. So if you watch the trailer, I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything. But you know things start to go wrong in this, what looks like in the beginning to be this like utopian, a little primitive but beautiful society where everybody's um, friendly to one another and they love each other and yeah, they might not live with modern day technologies, but they have family values and all this stuff that is shown at the facade of this Swedish midsummer event. But then, as the first ritual commences, things start to go south, and the people who visited start disappearing. And so, um, the core of the movie really centers around, like I was saying in the beginning, Danny and Christian, the couple that is shown at the beginning of the movie. But as I was saying with Hereditary, goes without saying in this film as well. Um, awesome to watch a second time, knowing the basic plot elements, having a few months to cloud out the specifics, so it still felt fresh to me for both movies. To watch both of these movies and pick up the little things that I did not see before. Um, so, like I was saying, um, overall, I recommend this movie. Um, Definitely, if the little trailer that you watch or any of this sounded interesting, I recommend both of these films, and I'm definitely an Ari Aster fan. So, to do just a little end cap of today's review, um, yeah, both of these films center around grief and kind of the process of going through losing someone, and whether that be through a relationship or through death, a relationship ending, or through somebody leaving this world. Um, and I think both of them explore them in different ways, and so to have that overarching theme in both of these completely different stories, I think is really interesting, really cool. And like I said, the moment of just despair and sobbing, but being shown in both films. Um, there's a scene where somebody's head gets taken off in both of these movies, and it is shown. So there's that still that both um, symbolically parallel each other, and just really good piecing together of plot elements at the end. There's just little things you pick up on the second viewing of both of these movies, or at least I did, that just piece together a really cool story and make both of these movies memorable and worth watching. So that filled up a half hour of time. So that is going to be it from me this week. But that is my take on Hereditary and Midsommar, the 2018 and 2019 movie from Ari Aster. Thanks as always for listening to this podcast. If you are, or if it is still just me, thanks for editing and uploading another one, me. You did a great job. I was hoping to be a bit better at doing these by now, doing a bit better by editing these by now. Hopefully I'll be able to get in those stills, as I mentioned, for the film. There's so much I was going to mention about both of these movies, and I feel like even as I am making notes and figuring out what I'm going to say, I still kind of mess up the delivery and stuff. But I guess that's on me to just fix. Just one little tidbit I wanted to add is that this film, like I was saying with Hereditary, does not lack in this movie as well, Midsommar, that there are things that are shown to you. There's a ritual of the girls in this culture. to find someone that they will mate with, and one of the girls of the tribe ends up having a crush on Christian, who is um, there with Danny. So there's that whole kind of element of jealousy and stuff within the relationship allegory that I was talking about. But there's one scene where this quilt is shown, and it tells the whole entire story. Basically, foreshadows the third act of this film, and it's really cool um, to see that shown and not like told from like a village elder to one of the characters. It's not told to you, the viewer. You're just meant to see this visual, and it just kind of pans past these like almost comic book panels of this ceremony that's done in this culture, and you kind of are just meant to take these images in and process that information as to what's going to happen in the rest of the movie. So brilliant filmmaking, and a pure example at that. And hopefully I can show still of what I'm trying to get across. But like I said, both of these films are A+ quality to me. I'm not just kissing A24's ass. I know that's how these podcasts seem to be going. I will just get more into the just random picking of films and have a more standard episode as time goes on, I'm sure. But I was able to make a half hour out of just talking about both of these films and how they correlate. So that was cool. Like, comment, subscribe. Email me at filmcultpodcast@gmail.com. Would love to hear your feedback, criticisms, suggestions, anything of that sort. This has been episode 4 of Film Cult Podcast. I will see you next Friday, and enjoy your weekend.